Welcome to Imperial Interlude. With me, as always, is Ralph. Hello, Ralph.
Hi, Tim.
We did take a time off, mainly because the Mandalorian season concluded and there wasn't very much news in the likes of Star Wars to talk about. So, before we blabber about nothing for hours and hours, which obviously will bore anybody except for us, we thought we wait until AMG makes something new, and they had a little, let's say it, convention stream weekend.
Yes, I think, well, the timing is very apt because I think it would have been around the same time as the first of the US conventions that
Yeah,
aren't
something
running.
along those lines.
I can't remember which one normally is in March. Is it Adepticon?
I think Adepticon.
Yeah, so we know that FFG and AMG, well, AMG it is now with Legion, but I know FFG as well, normally had a big presence at Adepticon. So I think that's what this past weekend was. It was the weekend before, wasn't it? I think wasn't it the beginning
I
2 weeks
think so.
ago? I think it was, yeah. Um, had their 4 day fun bonanza of showing off what was coming, and there was some interesting Star Wars stuff.
And they did some interesting painting
Mm-hmm.
streams if the technology didn't went off.
Yeah, that's my big complaint with it. It and I, we put a podcast together with Bill and Wire and String, don't we? Really, I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
you know,
the
but
technical hurdles to make something like the streaming they did isn't that big. And
no,
to be honest, if um, it's really a small investment in software you need to make. If
hmm
you're getting yourself a business license for Zoom, for example, you're set. You have everything you need. There's nothing more you actually need to buy. Everything else can be made with open source software. All you need is maybe some money in the background, pulling the levers, and not having the people producing content being the ones also hitting the buttons.
yeah, because it did seem, and I don't want to sound nasty and negative, and it's not meant to be, but it did seem a little bit amateurish, especially on that last talk that they did where they were saying, the future of Legion, basically, which was the one of the last talks on the final day. And I know for a fact, just as it was showing some stuff off for what's coming ahead, which sort of maps in with the leaks that we discussed, a couple of months back
Mm-hmm.
when they came out, the stream went off.
Yeah, it's
And it was frustrating because they were talking about some of the stuff. It was like, oh, come on, it was like, um,
but
so.
let's keep it fair. FFG
Mhm.
weren't especially
Mm,
very tech savvy themselves, though they had something set up like a studio, and they
mhm.
made it felt like a bit more an effort to
Yeah,
get the streaming things done. But then again, they only did it every now and then again,
mm,
not for 4 days straight, which
true.
is always a problem.
It was. I mean, it did diminish on that sort of future of Star Wars one, because that was the one I was really interested in. There was some really interesting painting tutorials that they did, which I thought was useful. They did one on painting skin and stuff, which was quite interesting. Granted, they did use some of their other models from their other games, but it was just the techniques and stuff were interesting. And most of the streaming that they do, on the Wednesdays and Fridays for Legion, have been from the guys, the sort of the creative director and stuff, streaming, showing off his paint job. And one of them's of course painting his clones as the 104th, which is okay. Now I can see how to paint them.
Yeah. What annoyed me the most on that weekend was basically the thing that they, for some reason, decided to put all Star Wars content in a time frame which led to be 1 or 2 a.m.
Yeah.
over here, which is no. I'm staying up for many things, but I'm not staying up for a painting stream in a week where I'm already dead and gone by then.
Yeah, well, it was a little frustrating that they seemed to stack all of the Marvel content for Crisis Protocol at the beginning
Yeah,
and put all of the Star
which
Wars
is
stuff at the end.
understandable
It's
if
like,
you see that that is still the main moneymaker
yeah.
for Atomic Mass games.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe another thing that annoyed me a bit was, yes, the streams had technical difficulties and they were somehow cut up, but instead of fixing those in some sort of post-production and making a proper video, they just shoved the VODs over to YouTube
Yeah.
with 20 minutes of intro where nothing happened, which is
Yeah.
so annoying.
Yeah. A little bit of post-production editing wouldn't go amiss with, just to tidy them up when they do put them on YouTube. But that they're the niggles. I think they're the technical things that we, being IT people that we are,
Yeah,
we,
and
we
we're
we pick up on it more, I think, than your standard, say, person who doesn't work with IT or just
and
wants to see what's going on.
let's not forget we're spoiled by the
Yeah.
likes of Beast of War and other professional
Mhm.
videocasts that actually invest a lot of time, money,
Yeah.
and sweat and blood into the post production of any video.
Mhm.
Well, that's rather here nor there. So let's get to the meat and bones of today, which
Mhm.
are the two vehicles, in my opinion. Or do you want to start
Yes.
with the?
I think we'll come around to what's coming in the future after we've covered the vehicles, because the vehicles are imminent, they're almost here pretty much.
Yeah.
There's a couple of online stores in the UK are now taking pre-orders for them.
Oh, already.
Yeah.
I already did it the minute they were announced.
Well, I'm looking and I'm thinking, yes, I think I may have to get some lat LEs for me clones. Definitely, I think
Well, the thing is it still an LE if it's for clones?
yes, it's still called the lat LE Patrol Transport. Yeah.
That would be debatable.
It is very debatable because the lat IE, I think is, well, the lat generally is the thing that you're seeing in Attack of the Clones, the
Yeah.
nice big gunship. That's the lat, the light assault attack transport. I think it is. I'm just thinking now, as if they've produced this one. Well, are we going to then get to see the clone specific gunship at some point?
No,
I'm wondering if we will.
I would say no, because it would be too similar to that model and would be for the same faction. No,
Mm,
can't see it. Not in the near future. Maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, but
yeah, I
not.
mean, you can pick them up now anyway. There's companies doing in the UK, especially. There's a 3D printer who
Yeah.
prints the Drakefire one that was produced. The 3D model that you can buy and print yourself. But
Yeah,
there is a guy in the UK
on that
prints.
note, you can have anything, but
Oh yeah,
talking about official license
official,
models,
definitely yes.
no, not the foreseeable future. I don't think.
You never know. We might see an AT-AT though.
It may be viable if Atomic Mass Games suddenly sees an increase in sales of heavy vehicles, because I think up to this point, big vehicles weren't really a big seller, because for the Imperium you had the ATST and you've
Mm-hmm.
got the tank, and that's about it.
I'm thinking, just from a game standpoint, that I know that a couple of the successful CIS lists that appeared, in the when conventions were a thing and people were actually playing face to face
In the before times,
in the before
before
times,
the event, remain indoors.
we're running the droid tank quite successfully.
Yeah, but that was a very late entrance. The 2 years
True.
prior to that were
Yeah.
pretty few vehicles seen on the field. Every tournament I went to and I had my ATST with me, it seemed to be the only one. And when the tank was new, I also seemed to be the only one running a tank. So, yeah,
But weren't they bullet magnets or blaster magnets?
a wee bit.
Yeah, it's like most war games, isn't it? You put something big and heavy and what people perceive as dangerous on the game board, it becomes It becomes a bullet magnet of some
Yeah.
description, doesn't it? But
So,
anyway, so
what do you
they've
think about that design for the LAT?
well, it's going off the Clone Wars patrol ships anyway. That's where the design came from originally. So it actually is, unlike the AAT, the rebel bus, as people are nicknaming it,
The AA5.
the AA5, the Scooby tank.
Yeah, I'm calling it the oh god, the space baller.
Yeah, it's yes, it's a space ball top actually. Yeah, because I know that's from which it's one of the video games that's from.
No, the
Where
video game actually got it from a role-playing game.
was
It's
it? Oh,
it's in one of the role game source books from way back when, and then
yes, it's the West End Games
yeah,
Rebel sourcebook is where it's from.
yeah,
Then it was put into a video game, and then
they put it on I think it was a smartphone game,
yes,
some weird thing, and
Force
this
Commander.
from that they took the inspiration for the model, but the very first iteration was from the RPG, as far as
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, I remember it now because I've got the hardback Rebel sourcebook sitting here from West End Games.
Was,
It's in
I
there.
think, a black and white sketch.
It is, yes, and it's a little bit sleeker as well than what it looks.
Yeah, though that could be talked down to the perspective.
Oh yeah, well, in the design, I think it's a little bit squasher and more long, sort of a little bit more sleek in its design. It's got more of a pointy front than the chopped off front. That seems to have like a truck, how it looks as a truck, but I know which one it is. So yeah, it's from the Rebel thing. But the LAT was a design that was created by Clone Wars. I think the first time you see the LAT, and I could be wrong, and probably am, was the episodes where Ahsoka goes on the run and she's being chased by Commander Fox, sorry, Hound, and
I think we have here we have a timeline discrepancy because those episodes, and correct me if I'm wrong, were made by Disney after the fact.
No, they were season 5.
Because I know I can remember seeing this vehicle in Rebels, but I couldn't
Oh yeah,
tell
it
you
was.
at what point.
Yeah, it was in Rebels, but originally the LAT in Clone Wars appeared in when I first saw it, you see it in season 5 because it's used as the transport that's hunting Ahsoka, which was post pre-Disney, sorry, or post-Disney. I'm trying to remember 2014
That would
Clone
be pre.
Wars. So yeah, it's pre-Disney. It was season 5. It was when it was still running on the Cartoon Network. And then they picked up using the LAT for the Empire in Rebels. It was seen quite heavily in Rebels.
So according to Star Wars fandom Wikipedia, the first appearance is To Catch a Jedi from Clone Wars,
which is season 5, which was the
episode
sort of
19, production
yeah,
number 5.10.
yeah. So that's post Disney or pre Disney, sorry, because that's when Clone Wars was still being run on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. So basically, your first guess was right.
And it's basically, you see this transport. They're transporting the Coruscant Guard with Commander Fox and Hound and people chasing Ahsoka. It's when she's thingied of sort of being seen as a traitor. So it's the 19 and 20, if I remember correctly, because it only ran for 20 episodes each season. Those were the sort of the end of season 5. It was when season 5 was coming to an end, and they weren't going to be getting any more. And it was the arc, basically, Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
So that's when we first see it in Clone Wars, and then in Rebels we see it quite heavily with Commander Price and people like that, which is quite interesting because the way they've structured the cards, and I've got some of the cards in front of us here. You can have a pilot as one of the characters, yeah. So for the clones, you have Commander Fox. You can have Hound and Grizzle or Grizzer, which is basically his dog creature, and then you can have clone shock trooper pilot. So they're like the 3 upgrade cards for the pilot you can have. On the Imperial card, you can have Commander Price. So Governor Price is one of the pilots, or Baron Rundor. Now, Baron Rundor appeared in Rebels as I think he was one of the TIE pilot commanders that you see in Rebels. Commander Price, as we know, Governor Price appeared from the beginning, I think, just about. No, she turned up second season, I think, when Throne turned up, or just after Throne. And then you've got Imperial Pilot as well. So the way they've structured it is you can have different sort of named characters as the pilot. But the other thing with the way that they've done the cards, which is interesting, is if you're running the vehicle, whichever one you're running, the LAT, especially in the LAT, and I'm assuming it's probably the same with the Rebels, the Rebel speeder, you have a marking on the card for the pilot's called Field Commander. So the pilot of the vessel takes place over the sort of the commander that you would normally run. So say, for example, you were running an Imperialist and you had Vader. You don't necessarily need to be running Vader as your commander. You could be using the LAT pilot as your commander.
Mm.
So the vehicle is technically your commander.
I don't know if that will hold rules-wise, but we shall see.
Yeah, it's on the named cards. It says Field Commander, but of course in the boxes, especially for the LAAT, you're getting 2 cards because they're dual faction.
Yeah, the AA5 also has a Field Commander, which is Shrif Surgaf.
I haven't got that picture here. Let's see, someone's posted up. Just going through the Facebook page because that's where somebody's posted them up.
Yeah,
that's quite interesting.
That picture is from the FFG side, so.
All right, I'll go there.
And he's also in the big artwork, so I'm guessing we can take that for granted.
What's interesting is, especially with the model, especially with the model itself, that they are, that you can run it either with the doors open or the doors closed when you're modeling it, which is interesting.
Yeah, you can go basically 2 routes with this model. Either you go the model builder's route and you leave the clear perspex clear and see-through and the doors open and you go full ham on painting everything on the model, or you choose the poor man's path and just prime the clear plastic black from the inside and close the door and just call it a day. And have many spare bits at that.
And have many spare bits, yes, indeed. I know that the guys at AMG that are currently the guy that's, I think is the creative design director, who's painting the LAT for his clones, did the whole prime black, prime the canopy. So it's it's all there, and he was doing some airbrush and dry brush painting on it this past week, which was quite interesting. It looked really nice, actually, to be honest, the scheme that he was coming with, because I don't think you have to stick, especially with the clones and stuff, you don't have to stick to the scheme that's on the vehicle.
Yeah,
it's
a free for all. You can design it any way you want, and I have thought about doing something, well, not special, but similar to the official artwork they shown with the very light gray and the blue stripe, only that I would use Imperial gray or uniform gray from the can from Army Painter, which is a darker gray, and instead of blue stripes, these parts I would do in red, just to make it a bit more sinister.
That's because if you do it for the Imperial, you could do that, but you could do the red as well for the clones.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't go such a dark gray, and then I would stay with a light gray.
You would do a lighter gray, but if you did red for the clones, then you could turn around and say it's the transport for the Coruscant Guard, because that's what they have. They have the red on their uniforms.
Or there's in X-Wing always the Red Squadron from the Imperials. Could also do it in all red and just black accents. But I think that would be too much of an eye catcher on the table.
Looking at it, because I've seen some interesting lists with the LAT, especially where people are running dual LATs, which I thought was, it's an interesting one, for transport wise. because with it being a transport, you'd probably be able to get your troops quickly up the battlefield. If you're playing to you could drop off. You could have a collection of arcs that aren't running jetpacks,
Yeah,
blasting
but
straight up there. But
dual lards would be 240 points without any upgrades. That's
the upgrades aren't that expensive.
yeah, but that's already 50% on your skirmish game and
True, yeah.
almost maths
About a third.
more than
About
a
a quarter,
quarter.
sorry. Yeah.
So getting shot down with these would be terrible.
It would be very terrible. But if you did say run, twin lats, it'd be an interesting way of getting those shock troops if you're not running jetpacks, especially on the arcs. I must admit, I haven't seen many people in lists run jetpacks on the arcs.
Yeah, though now I'm looking at the cards, it's not that fast. It's only got a movement tool of 2, so yeah, potentially you could get fired upon and lose everything.
Yeah.
Though health 8 that takes a punch.
Yeah, it's quite a meaty piece of kit.
I'm just thinking about having two of those, one carrying Vader commander, the other one carrying the Emperor as a commander.
Yes.
Dropping them.
I was going to say that's a skirmish game done, isn't it?
Dropping them down in the midst of some poor swords with their little rifles getting thrown around the battlefield. But I think those 4 miniatures would be about 600 points.
Yeah. It depends on how many what you call it you're running against on Vader, isn't it, and on the Emperor upgrade points and stuff like that. It's the thing. Do you then, if you say running these vehicles, any of the vehicles that are there, running them as are you running them with the field commander option and run, say, the operative version of Vader instead of making it a commander, because that means it's slightly cheaper, I think.
Yes, the miniature is a bit cheaper, but also lacks some of his skills, so he's not that able.
I'm surprised. I tell you what would be interesting, and this is a little side, just generally where they seem now to be going for dual faction, is doing a 501st, doing a clone version of Vader, or a cards to run Vader with clones, not as Anakin, but as Vader.
I don't think they will do that. Because then you'll get somebody building a list with Obi-Wan and Vader on one side, which is so against everything.
It is so against. I mean, you could do it so that this Vader, you could write it in the text saying, that if you're running this version of Vader, you can't run any other Jedi. Do it, some sort of card text, card ruling.
Yeah, would be possible to pull off, but still, I think that wouldn't fit the army style.
Not with clones, but I'm wondering if the idea maybe it's something to think for them to think about is sort of doing some retro end of Clone Wars, beginning of Empire stormtroopers that you could then, different helmet. That would be something I would like to see them to do, is especially on some of their minis, is having the ability to buy, say, packs of helmets that are different, because that's one of the things that sort of frustrates me a little bit with the clones, especially, is the fact is there's no variety in the phase 1s and phase 2s.
Yes, same goes for the stormtroopers, and that's where we can later catch on again when we go about the seemingly themed releases they start to think, because I've got some things to talk about at that point too. So let's get back to the vehicle at state. So the LAT, design-wise, I find it interesting, though I don't like it as a transport as much. I think it's too small, but that's that's a design decision they did. The AA5, again, for the Rebel Alliance, I can totally see as a transport, because it's a solid block.
It is. It's a solid block of plastic, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, you can either paint it like a amateur noob and just paint everything and leave the doors closed, or you can make it hatch open, and I think you could even open the roof, if I remember the video correctly.
I'm looking at the image on the FFG site, and I think the only thing that's there, I don't know if the roof opens, but it's definitely got two different types of gun for the top of the
Yeah,
for the
I
vehicle.
was under the impression that on the painting stream they had the upper part of the roof disconnected, and
Yeah, I think it's so they can take it off. So if you wanted to, you could run it so that you can put your unit that you're transporting inside of it, and then
exactly.
lift it off. So you could technically magnetize it if you wanted to.
And
Put some little magnets on there to hold it in place as it's being moved up the table.
on this subject of the FFG site and pictures showing from the official part of things, what I'd really like them to do in the future is things that other manufacturers of miniatures already do. Can you guess what it is?
Would that be the 3D renders occasionally that they used to do?
No, complete opposite of that. I'd like to see the sprue.
Yes.
Show the sprue that's in the box.
Mhm.
I don't care for the 3D render, that's always a glorified picture. I
Yeah.
like the assembled models, but I also like to take a look at the sprue, because at that point I can start thinking about conversions and where to put my magnets.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I agree with that. It would be really useful.
I'm
I'm
highly, and I can't stress this enough, highly tempted to make myself some magnetized wings for the AA5 to make it look like the Winnebago from Spaceballs. Just for the sheer lols of it, to put it on the table, see what my opponent says to it, and then remove them for the sake of playability. But just to have them look as that dreadful.
that means you need a Wookiee co-pilot then, don't you? You need Barf in there, don't you?
Yeah. Or some kind of dog toy as a reference.
Yeah. I must admit, it really does look like the Winnebago. It does look like the Winnebago of it, doesn't it? It really does.
Let's be honest, it's a hovering vehicle that's box shaped. The simple fact that there's a gun on top doesn't make it less of a camping mobile.
He has one for you. Do you think Warren at Beasts of War will go off it because it's a hovering vehicle? Because he doesn't like hovering vehicles, does he?
He's currently is obsessed with spiders. We leave it at that.
Yeah, that's true. But I must admit, that's a big chunky piece of plastic, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
And it's
the same price as the clone tank. It's the same price as the ATST and all the others. So it's a reasonably priced kit.
Yeah, but it comes unarmed. So it's basically just a armored box to get people from A to B, and not very fast at that because it's only speed 1.
Yeah.
But then again, with that base, you don't need very much of a.
No, because if it depends on the weapon you mount as well. Because
the thing is basically the same speed as the Imperial tank I usually field, and it's faster than you would think. And since it's hovering and can do a reposition and is hovering and got a closed transport in spite of an open transport, I think it's an interesting option to get your, let's say, valuable but fragile troops from point A to point B.
Yeah. I mean, is this the one where you would drop your commander into, would you run Luke inside of it? Would you run
not Luke?
Jin?
Luke is too fast and agile. His strength is being able to run around the battlefield.
Jin
maybe, but I was rather thinking about troops like the fleet troopers, who have a very short range of weapon, who need to get more or less close range to anything they like to take down. So maybe have a unit of some kind of field troopers in it, and then drive up to the rear of the enemy tank vehicle.
Oh, I've just noticed. Sorry, Tim. I've just noticed something on the card as well, which is on the lat as well. The first one is armor. while defending. Is that all hits?
All hits, yeah. Only criticals
Only
do any
criticals.
damage.
Ooh.
Well, that has been there for a long time.
Yeah, I've just noticed it. Is that on the other vehicles as well?
If they have armor, so the rebel, the Imperial tank, the ATST.
I think both the CIS droid tank and the Saber tank have armor as well.
I couldn't tell for those faction. It's not on speeder bikes. It's not on the land speeder.
And it's not on the airspeed either, I'm assuming. The snow speeder.
Yes, it
Is
is. It has.
It's on the snow
I
speeder.
think it has. I need to look it up, but I think that has armor too.
That's interesting. It just with with the eight hits and stuff, with the 8 health and stuff and armor, it'll withstand a pounding.
Yeah, that's why these vehicles aren't so bad at all, but people choose not to use them because they're hard to maneuver.
Yeah.
And then you've got some kits firing armor piercing or have some other catch keywords that make every hit a critical automatically, and at that point it's just fire for effect.
I'm wondering though, is when these hit the tables in any of the lists, whether people forget about that, and then start adjusting their lists around what these do, depending on the gameplay that seems to the meta that seems to pop up when these come out. Is the meta going to be now if everybody running anti-armor because of these vehicles?
Very much possible. There's ample heavy weapons options or for troop units that go either anti-personnel or anti-vehicle. So I'm guessing if these things catch up and we will be able to play tournaments again, these things will pop up.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what the meta, from point of view of list creation, what these do to these lists, because I think it's just going to add another element into the game that seems to be that wasn't there per se, if you know what I mean. That it's just adding another dimension.
The possible combinations will be very interesting.
Because do you then run these, or do you run one of these as an anti-armor, almost acting like a helicopter for the lat?
Maybe not a helicopter, but But fun thing I like is one of the Rebel upgrade cards for the AA5 is the Reckless Driver, which screams Orc to me. Have you read the Reckless Driver?
I haven't. I've not.
When you activate, perform a compulsory move you cannot reverse. First time during activation that you displace an enemy unit, roll 1 white defense die for each many in that unit. That unit suffers 1 wound for every shield result. So basically, you've got a loony on the wheel going full ham, speed forward.
Oh, when you were when we were joking about Barf.
Yeah.
There's one of the upgrade pilot cards is called Hotshot Pilot, and the pitcher is a Wookiee.
Yeah, I've seen that. And he's a bit of a chunky one, so the resemblance isn't too far off.
It's not, is it really?
Well, but then again, if you use him and you gain Sharpshooter 1 without any weapons, that's
that's a little bit of a
So you need to retrofit either the quad laser or the heavy laser.
Yeah. But then that becomes if you do that from a game point of view, it becomes a mobile weapons platform with troopers inside of it, which isn't too bad.
If you use the heavy laser retrofit, it got a red, black, and white die, a range 1 to 4, and every surge goes automatically to a critical hit. And if you add the Hotshot Pilot and you get yourself a Sharpshooter 1, Defender's cover is reduced by 1, so...
Yeah, it's an impact 2 as well, isn't it? So
no, that's the AG2G quad laser.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, the quad laser one. And it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 black dice.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to throw dice around.
I'll just get that bucket.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's somebody flying around that corner. Hit it!
Indeed. But it's... I'm interested. I must admit, I really am interested in what these bring to the gameplay. I think it's opening up a different sort of element to the game, which I think is
Yeah,
what we need.
I'm guessing these will be most interesting in games larger 800 points. So
Yeah.
if people start making 1,200 point army lists for, let's say, a 4x8 table or a 4x6 table, just to, with maybe less terrain on it, to have a more open battlefield.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if that's some of the rules ideas that they're kicking around with having larger gameplay, larger rules based around having more points than the standard
Yeah,
500 or 800 points. I wonder if that's some of the ideas.
it would be more easy for them to shrink down the miniatures to, let's say, 10 mil.
Are we banging that drum again?
Yes, I'm sorry, still waiting for Epic Legions. They haven't returned my calls. I don't know why.
I must admit, I did this week. I picked up another ART clone walker, so I've got 2 of them now.
Yeah,
The ART, got 2 of them now. So
can't never have enough of them. Two? Shouldn't there have been 2 in the? Oh no,
No.
the box came with bark speeders.
The box comes with 2. There's 2 of them in the box, I think, but you only get 1. Unless I've not looked at the rules not looked at the creation things, but you only get 1 base. And when I check the box says it only comes with 1 ART. ATRT, sorry.
If I remember correctly, the original box came with 2.
Yes, the Legion Star Wars Classic.
So
The
the
Star
Rebel
Wars
side
Club
got 2.
The Rebel side got
yeah.
2 because you got 2 speeder bikes, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Oh,
in
that's
the
1 unit, as the RT is a unit each.
Yes. For the clones, it's a single unit.
It's for the Rebels also, but the speeder bikes are 1 unit. So two
Yeah.
bikes is 1 unit. I'm having 6 of those currently.
Which one? The Barks or the
No, the speeder bikes.
speed bikes?
When my friendly local game store shut down, I may have gone on a shopping spree.
As you should have.
Yeah, so I simply bought up the last 2 boxes of speeder bikes he had, and both the official terrain mats from FFG and the bunker, and some knickknacks.
So I picked up an additional ATRT for me clones because what I'm going to do is I'm getting a tripod this week,
and
I've got a really nice webcam here. I've got a 4K Logitech Bravio one, the sort of the 150 quid webcam that you can get.
So you're joining the ranks of people making videos for the
interwebs. It may be because I've got that project on Beast of War for me Clone Force. So I'm toying with the idea of creating a video. I'll record and then put it through Premiere and tidy it up a bit of my painting, how I'm going to paint the clones.
Yeah.
So lets people see how I do them, just to give them ideas, because there's loads of videos on YouTube of people painting their clones in different ways. And a lot of them as well is because it's the white armor. You can use the same sort of styling or the same sort of ideas when you want to play paint your stormtroopers as well and stuff.
Yeah, it's a rather forgiving paint scheme, let's call it that.
Yeah, it is. Unless you decide to go down the route of painting them the same way as they look in the Battle of Kashyyyk, which is basically the same way that the guy did it on Atomic Mass Games, is one of his streams where I think he primed it with what equivalent to skeleton bone, and then took a sponge and dabbed over it with green, and then dabbed over it with brown.
The camo pattern.
Yeah, which will work as well. So it's just that. But I thought about doing one specifically for the clones to get that base white, and then I think what I'm probably going to do with my clones is I am going to paint them in the 104th. So it's going to be the Dawnstone or another equivalent grey for the shoulder pads, and then the other bits as well on them and stuff, just to turn them into basically the 104th, the Wolfpack. but lovely minis. I
And
must admit, the Phase 2s to put together are really nice.
will they get 2 or 1 LAD LE?
I haven't made that decision yet. I'll probably definitely get one just for the collection more than
Yeah.
anything.
Well, 1 is the
Um,
bare minimum you need, and 2
yeah.
if the wife isn't looking. Oh, my must have slipped with the mouse. Well,
Yes,
can't
the
pick that.
mouse must have slipped over an order too by mistake. It'll definitely be one. I mean, I've got a saber tank here
Yeah.
that I need to put together. What I'm probably going to do is actually I'm going to get a Force on Parade preprint and sort of lay everything out that I've got, take a photograph of just to see what I've got to paint. Because I
Yeah.
know I've got an Anakin to paint, I've got an Obi-Wan to paint.
That will make get yourself some nightmares.
Yes, I will indeed. I mean, I've got a Rex to paint, but I'm toying with the idea of painting them as Wolf instead. But I may also look about maybe doing a conversion or something with Rex and adding a Phase 2 arm to him instead, because some of the pictures that you see of Commander Wolf, he's an Orc. He's in the same armor as Rex. But Rex's armor is slightly different, which is an interesting thing, because if you look at Rex's helmet later on, he's got a weld mark on the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he's cut his helmet off and put on a different faceplate. It's because he's got the fin on the top, from Phase 1, but he's got the front piece of a Phase 2. And that, when you look at his helmet and some of the close-up shots, especially on some of the things like Hot Toys and stuff, you can see where there's a weld mark around sort of the lower part of the face,
Mm.
where he's sort of almost kit bashed his own helmet. But the other armor, as well as all, is mixture of Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Yeah, I think that's a thing they did for clones to simply make them feel more unique for themselves.
Yeah.
So
now I have done something with 2 of my arcs though, which I said I was never going to do with any of the clones, but I thought, sorry, I better. Is I've given them 2 2 of them have got bear helmets, but that's to denote who 5s and Echo are. Because I've seen clone lists running 5s and Echo, and it's like they're insane.
Which one is who?
5s. I can bring it up actually.
No, I was referring to people not using then the bare headed models and just having rows of
well,
identical
what you
looking.
can do with one of them is, especially I think with 5s, is you can run him with the DLT-15, the big long rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one has got a pistol and a thingy in his hand. A pistol and the DT-15, sort of the equivalent to the E11.
Yeah.
On the models, but I thought I'll put the helmet. I'll try and paint flesh properly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare for myself too. I can paint white, I can paint yellow, but skin is.
Yes, getting skin. I mean, it's easy now with things like the flesh tone and things like that, but it's then going in afterwards and highlighting, and I'm not the best at doing highlighting and stuff. So we'll see what happens.
We can't all be Sarastros, can we?
That's true. I tried his paint scheme and cried and ran away from him.
So, armored vehicles on the horizon coming up. I think it was said about the end of third quarter.
Yeah, I think we've got in
the
UK.
articles talks about May.
Yeah.
I'm still doubting that.
I think it might be May, because it'll probably tie in around May. Well, it won't be May the 4th, but it'll tie around May, maybe June.
Yeah.
Because May being Star Wars month, technically, with May the 4th being there, and that's of course when we'll be back fully weekly for the Bad Batch.
Yeah, and I think we can safely say when these arrive and people start playing with them, we will see a slight increase in vehicles overall as used in battles, because if you start to have variations of vehicles that can what's the word I'm looking for, add benefits to each other, then you'll have some kind of symbiosis of vehicles that we may not be able to think about right now.
Yeah, I think we'll see more vehicles appearing in in games. I think I think you'd see definitely more probably tanks maybe, and if people are running the AA5 on the Rebel side, maybe the more ATSTs, but
Very possible, yeah.
you
Or
know,
somebody is going, okay, now my rebel friends may use some major vehicles. Now I need ATSTs.
yeah, yeah, to sort of to stem that sort of attack, especially if it's shown that those those two vehicles, especially the transport, is devastating against people that aren't running vehicles.
Or anti-vehicles at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So we started at the beginning of this podcast talking about possible releases coming up from AMG being thematic, not having launching big boxes like GW does with some things, but that the boxes that are pushed out the door at the same time all will have some kind of theme in common to be well used in tandem, for lack of a better term. And the next upcoming things actually smell a lot like the Battle for Kashyyyk,
Yeah.
because we've got two big clankers, new Wookiee warriors, and Yoda, which came as a bit of a surprise when it was first leaked 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's basically, I mean, we've mentioned this before. It was the leak that popped up, which had Yoda, the super tactical droid, the Magar,
Magard.
the Magard for Grievous, the Kashyyyk fighter that's coming, the Wookiee fighter, the
Yeah, that
hovercraft,
I totally
the
forgot
thing that
about
looks
that
like a
one.
dragonfly, pretty
Yeah.
much. I can't remember, were Wookiee warriors on that leak?
Yes, I'm pretty sure there were.
And then there was an upgrade as well. There was some sort of heavy weapons upgrade.
Yeah, and there was also another droid, the spider droid.
Yeah, it was spider droids and also the pursuer tank for the droids, which is that big single wheel thing that you see in the Battle of Kashyyyk.
Is that the single wheel? Wasn't that two wheels in a triangular form?
I can't remember now. The Persuader tank or something, wasn't it?
Well, they haven't been officially shown now, and but I think they will be soon or later.
Yeah, because one of the things they did mention is that they may do another one of these, events that they had.
Yeah, I think the terminology used was there may be events around the corner closer than you think they are. So whatever the cryptic meaning behind that may be.
Exactly right. What I'm going to do, Tim, is I'm going to send you this because I think this is on the horizon. This vehicle. So copy image address, and we go into this. I think is coming, and if it is, this is going to, where we're talking about chunky pieces of machinery on the tabletop.
Oh, let me just get this. Oh yeah,
that.
The thing that looks like a snail.
Yeah, and that was mentioned in the leaks as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a chunky piece of kit.
Yeah, I think that would be same size as the AA5, possibly.
Yeah, and maybe the size of the droid tank, possibly, because the droid tank's quite chunky.
Yeah, but because of the longish form of the one, I think it would have the base of the AA5.
So that was on there, which is the NR-N99 Persuader class droid Enforcer, as it's called.
The naming schemes aren't the best for the robots.
But we are getting the spider tanks as well. The spider tanks as well.
Yeah, but those were rather small, if I remember correctly.
They were, yeah, they were probably the size of, maybe the size of a. I'm thinking from a gameplay point of view, maybe the size of a walker.
I think they get the same base. No, I think they would get the same base as the Snowspeeder or the ATST because that's the smaller of the one of the big round bases.
Yeah, because the next size down from that would be the ATRT.
Yeah, and that would be too small. Those
Yeah.
are the sizes for the Droidicas, so they need to get a step up.
Yeah, so we're due them. And then there was talk of a clone weapons platform, I think, or clone support platform. But it looks like they are all built around, as we said, the Battle of Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Now, what was interesting from what they were talking about, especially the Wookiees are coming from that box. It's technically 2 flavors. You can build the Wookiees as a melee only, or you can build the Wookiees as commander. Sorry, not as command, as range.
Yeah. You can
within
either
that.
give them swords or make them close combat. The original Wookiee box was a mixture.
Was it a mixture of both?
Yeah.
And they've said you can use the original Wookiees with this new set, which means the original Wookiees are going to become dual faction then, by the sounds of it.
Well, I think it's comes basically down to the fact that the Wookiees as a model are still valid. So you maybe need the card from the new box. At this point, they could start shelling out card upgrade packs with new units, or maybe in the future when the Wookiee box is re-released, put additional box cards in for the Clone Wars factions.
We might get 2 cards in it anyway, because you might have a melee card and a ranged card.
Yeah.
Which would be the way to go, and probably with both factions marked on it.
Yeah, and that would make for some variation in the sheer looks department of the game. And at that point, this is what I've been holding back the whole time now. I'd love for AMG to make some alternative models and sculpts for the core troops of every faction. So clone troopers, stormtroopers, rebel troopers. Just give me a second box with the same cards, but just different sculpts to spice up the visuals on the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can get other looking troops from sources that aren't official, but because we're talking about official ones, definitely. I mean, I have seen, which is interesting, I've seen a couple of people doing conversion work. And one of the conversion works I saw somebody do was take some of the clone arms and put them onto the snowtroopers, because the snowtrooper costume is very similar to the Galactic Marines, which were the ones that you saw in Revenge of the Sith, killing Kaya Mundi. At the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
Commander
of course,
Braca and stuff.
You can do these things, but at the end of the day, you're left with a box of armless clone troopers.
I know this. I have a box here because I bought some additional clones and stuff to do some conversions, which I've done. So I took the phase 1 clone specialists, which had like the rocket launcher guy and stuff like that, and I've added some normal clone arms onto it. So I've got one of the guys with the cami and stuff on there, and the helmet with the like the visor on, with the like the rangefinder on, but he's carrying a Z6, the twin barrel, or the tri-barrel. And I've got another guy carrying a DTL-15 the long gun and stuff as well. So he was trying to put some variety into my clones. So when I put them on the tabletop, it's, from me, I wanted a little bit of variety, so that's why I did it. But I would like to see FFG do that. Even what they could do, I suppose, is either do alternative sculpts, or just do, especially for the standard clones, do alternative heads.
Yeah, they couldn't. I think the main problem here is the way the first iterations of Star Wars Legion were built with this soft plastic and the slotting of arms. I think if this would be the perfect point to refit on and reinvigorate the Imperials, and some other factions by simply going full, well, basically going full tabletop wargaming, doing miniatures via the means of sprues, and not to have
Yeah,
arms and legs be slotted, but rather on a
peg.
peg or something that is more easily manipulated to have
Yeah,
some action in it.
yeah, definitely that. I mean, yeah, I can. The difference between the phase 1 and phase 2s is light years, because I'd even the specialists as well, because the phase 1 specialists and then the phase 2s and the arc troopers and all of the sort of the later ones come on sprues, where the phase 1s didn't.
They
Don't
came
come
all in
on
these
sprues.
little baggies.
They came in little baggies. Yeah, it's exactly the same as they came in the starter box, where later ones are coming on sprues. So I mean, they could definitely do with some invigoration. I mean, I think for stormtroopers especially, some invigoration would be, especially some alternative poses and things like that. And
Yeah, and maybe even go as far and say, okay, we know you all got your 2 core sets of stormtroopers worth, or 4
yeah,
boxes of troopers. Here are some heavy weapon models
yeah,
with different posings, maybe a different commander,
mhm,
or something along those lines. Well, to be fair, stormtroopers and clone troopers to a lesser extent aren't that much of a don't have so much
no,
differences in it all, because they are all the same, more or less.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's the white armor and
still,
stuff. Yeah.
there should be able to do something to mitigate that to a point.
I tell you what would be really interesting, especially from the clone point of view, would be alternative versions of not having the non-helmet. Because if you look at the heads, they all look the same. There's no differences in hair, hairstyles or whatever. Where
They could get
in
away with facial expressions.
yeah, facial expressions
Have
in
one
say
shout, have one squint an eye, have one look around the corner.
mhm.
If they've got
the
a
the
face, you
the
can
hair
do
as well.
something.
The hair as well. You could have mohawk and stuff like, because there is that, especially from the animated Clone Wars. There was that variety where you started to see difference, even though all the faces look the same
Yeah.
and they all sounded the same. There was that variety in styles of how they did the hair.
Give them a
Facial
beard.
facial markings. Not Vaughn. Oh, I can't remember what his name, but the one that was in the final season with the Ahsoka and stuff, where you had that tattoo of the Republic symbol on his face. Things like that. Where there is the variety in how they look.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who likes painting the troopers without the helmets, doing that. But also, if you're going to do that, have it in some way where if you're painting one without a helmet, you get a version of the helmet to go with it that you could then, if need be, attach to the figure somehow.
Yeah.
Like whether it's clipped on the belt or whatever. So then it shows, that they have their helmets.
A
Type of
bit
thing.
like Games Workshop do the sergeant models, the
Hmm.
one with a screaming fist raised in the air,
Yes, standing on a body.
foot on rock.
Yeah, foot on rock. So instead of foot on rock for FFG, we'll have foot on dead rebel, foot on dead clanker.
Foot on another dead soldier, which
Yeah,
isn't his own. Um, like, let's get back to the miniatures they have shown that
definitely.
weekend. So we've got the Wookiee warrior,
Yep.
we've got Yoda, and 2 clankers.
Yep.
Which
Now,
one is your favorite?
I quite like all 3 versions of Yoda, because you're going to be able to create 3 different versions of Yoda.
Yeah, he has a very nice grumpy looking facial expression.
It's the dynamic one that I quite like, the leaping, where we're talking leaping off rock.
Yeah, though I don't think it's a rock. I think it's some kind of
it's a,
stump.
it's like a tree branch or something. But yeah, that's very much the Yoda that I would probably paint up and run with for a clone force. Definitely run Yoda like that. I must admit, I do agree with what you were saying, where it's a shame that you can't run Yoda with the rebels, as you
Yeah.
would think. It would be interesting to run, say, the 3rd version, which is the one with the walking cane in his hand held up. you know.
Yeah, him against Emperor.
Yeah, that would be.
Though looking at the point cost,
Yes,
that
he
would
is
be a
quite a.
very barren battlefield.
But the thing is, as well, if you look at the Yoda card, is he's got a force power included in the card.
Which
I think
would that be?
I think force pushes there already by itself. I think.
No.
Let's have a look. I did see it. There's
Guidance, Ataru Mastery. You can perform up to 2 attack actions. Immune to Pierce and Master of the Force 2.
is it Master of the Force 2? He's got. Let's have a look. Is that the card? No. Critical impact and PS. No, true. No, that's a homebrew Yoda card.
The Force Wave he has as an attack.
That's it. It's Force Wave, is it? Someone mentioned that he had a Force ability sort of on the card, so it must have been the Force Wave one.
I think that's that then.
Yeah.
He can take up to 3 additional slots.
Is that the biggest with the upgrade for Force? I think it is, isn't it? Vader gets 2, I think.
Oh, I would have to look up. I haven't played for such a long time.
No, neither have I. Anakin gets 2 because I've got an Anakin here.
I think the Emperor gets 3 as well, but he's also at a ridiculous, I think, 180 to 240 points around that, something like that.
Yeah, Yoda's what, 200? 200?
Yeah, 200 points on the cards. So
yeah,
these things get too expensive. I don't think we will see them on skirmish games, though it would be fun.
No, I don't think you would see a Yoda on a skirmish game. I don't think I've seen on any of the skirmish game lists I've sort of looked at, and just perusing them stuff. I don't think I've seen much in the way of Force characters in the skirmish games. I must admit, I don't think I've seen much in the way, especially running sort of clone troopers running like a Rex or anything, because Rex is quite expensive as well. Really, it's 95 points, I think, for Rex.
Clones. Damn it. Skirmish games I've played were also only with generic commanders or something on the lower levels, because at 500 points you can't waste them.
No, but you can run a bunch of strike troopers, which is quite meaty in what they can do, because the Arcs are rank up there with some of the best special forces units you can sort of field. I must admit, I have been looking at getting or trying to get a hold of Genos or Inferno Squad and a couple of boxes of Dark Troopers. Death Troopers, sorry.
You mean like the ones that are sitting next to me still screaming, "Paint me!"
Yeah. And then just digging out the Black Templar contrast paint. There's the Death Troopers doing. There's the Death Trooper doing.
Yeah, it would be quite, though, to be honest. I've got to the point where I feel the seemingly most easiest paint jobs tend to be the most annoying.
Yes.
Because you're starting to look at it and see, yeah, I know it's all black, but there needs some detail to be done on. Then you're losing yourself.
There needs to be a slight contrast of a grey or something just to pick out the highlights. A very dark grey, but a grey nonetheless, probably. And stuff. But so I'm just wondering, I like Yoda's nice. I must admit the Magma Guard. The Magma Guard clone, so the droids look really nice as well.
Yeah, though I think those will be really hard to paint with the effect on their staff.
Yes, the effect on their staff, they've done a really good job of that sort of glowy electric charge. But
everything else is comes down to how you want it to look. If you want it to look battle worn, you simply put some pigments on it and call it a day. Yeah. But these energy...
yeah, the energy things. But it's a nice mini. It really is a nice sculpt.
Yeah.
The cloak and stuff really does sort of set it off. And I know the run in the rules, from what they were saying, is they run bodyguard.
Yeah.
As a rule, which means whenever your commander takes damage, they can take the damage as well. So you bung a bunch of them, say with Dooku or with Grievous.
Yeah, it's the same like the Imperial Guard goes with Vader or a Emperor Palpatine.
So it just adds that extra oomph to the character, doesn't it? It adds that extra oomph to your commander.
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm guessing
assuming.
they will be as deadly in close combat as the
Yes. Imperial Guard.
Imperial Guard is.
Yeah, I can see
Not
them
to
being
be
cool.
confused with the Imperial Guard from Games Workshop.
No,
That's a different guard.
that's definitely a different guard. Yes, I can see them being nice, but the sculpt's nice. I'll be interested in seeing, from what we were talking about, what is due. I'll be interested to see what the Fluttercraft looks like, or the Wookiee Dragonfly vehicle that's coming.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting sculpt because it's a
Mhm.
very organic shape with a
Yeah.
very, let's call it, weird construction mechanism behind it.
Yeah, it's pretty much a two-person helicopter.
Sure
One front back.
You sure it's two-person? Because if I look
Yeah,
at
it's
the
got a
art,
rear gunner. It's got a rear gunner.
because the artwork that's on the Facebook page only.
Ah.
Oh no, I've spoke too soon. I didn't see that arm coming up from behind.
But if you look at there's a picture here, the Hasbro toy from Revenge of the Sith. So you've got it's got like the 4 fluttering wings coming off it, yeah. But it's got a Wookiee sitting in the back that's on like the rear gun. So it's almost like the Wookiee version of a snowspeeder.
Yeah. The sunny beach version. It's the beach cruising version. with a slight difference, it's open and not armored.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be an open it'll be an open, probably not transport, an open fighter of some description.
I think it'll go like the speeders. It would be agile,
bikes,
but it will be not be armored. So one hit wonder and that thing is gone.
But it'll probably have the same rules, I'm assuming, as say the speeder bikes or whatever, where it's got to move and then move again.
Mandatory, compulsory move.
Yeah. But this brings us to sort of an interesting quandary of sorts, doesn't it? So we've got this set that's coming now from, say, June to October, as an example. I think that's probably the rest.
Let's just say Q3.
Yeah, Q3. So all of this stuff that we're talking about is probably this year's releases.
Yeah.
What's next? If they're going to start theming their releases, what do we think's due next?
Well, I'm trying to remember, but I think each release wave always contained 4 boxes, not much more. So the Yoda, Magma Trooper, Wookiee box, and the what's his face, the commander from the Clankers.
Oh, the super tactical droid.
Super tactical droid, yeah. That will be the release for Q3, I'm guessing. Maybe with 2 vehicles going within the Kashyyyk War, so the Fluttercraft and maybe the
tank,
the NRN-99, and possibly for the last quarter some more additional troops for that.
Well, we know that there is
Spider droid,
we've got the spider droids, we've got
the gun emplacement.
Yeah, we've got some sort of weapon support vehicle for the clones.
And then something along those lines maybe for Empire and Rebels, which hasn't been shown yet.
But I'm just wondering whether we're going to be getting, say, Yoda, and the droids protection. Because I'm just thinking of going off the way that they've released. So this current release that's ending with the LAT and the AA5 must have been the Callus and Lando as part of that release. Yeah, and that's why we got Callus. I'm an idiot. Agent Callus is seen in one of those in Rebels.
Yes. You didn't know that?
Just twigged. Just twigged. The COVID vaccine I got must be going to my brain.
Yeah, he flew one of those things.
Yes, he did. Does that mean then, here's one for you, which would be an interesting one for future release, because we're thinking about what things that they could bring, right? How about this? Is if they did this, depending on which version they pick, you could end up getting an Ahsoka, okay? Kanan Jarrus, as say 2 Force users for the Rebels, right?
Mhm.
Ahsoka maybe if they did a smaller version of the Mini. So say you got 2 versions of Ahsoka in the box, and you got a clone version and a fulcrum version. So the larger version,
Mhm.
so an adult Ahsoka and a sort of a teenager version, right? And Kanan. So that could be your Rebel release, right?
Yeah.
Then you could either get the Sith Inquisitor from the first season of Rebels,
Mhm.
or the 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 brothers, and or was it sister and brother? Anyway, the other Inquisitors that turned up in season 2 of Rebels.
I think those was brother and sister.
Yeah, sister being voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's the wife, of course, of Freddie Prinze Jr., who voiced Kanan Jarrus,
It
or played
feels
Buffy as well.
at times it feels like a bit of incestual pit.
It is, yeah. Yeah, but I'm wondering if that would be a release that they're thinking about, maybe, or span them over 2 releases. So one release would be, say, Kanan and Ahsoka with some other stuff, and the next release may be the brother and sister with some other stuff. But I'm guessing is if they're going to release Kanan and Ahsoka, does that mean we're going to see a Thrawn?
Possible, unlikely, but would be welcome.
It would be welcome, but also the Thrawn did in Rebels go on the ground and was a ground commander as well as being a space commander. So,
Yeah. Though I up to this point, FFG and AMG did a very good thing by balancing releases. At least to my feeling, there was never a release that favored any one side
yeah.
very much. There's always some things that were better for one side or the other, but there's nothing where people started screaming, "This breaks the game for faction X," because they always had something to remedy that.
Yeah. I'm
And I
just wondering
just
whether
just hope they keep that up.
because I'm just wondering whether they go down the route, especially with, say, a character, if they did do it of Ahsoka, instead of making her a commander character, make it an operative character.
I think you can't make Ahsoka a commander. That would be too much.
Jedi.
She's just too everything along the series. She's too young, too
Yeah.
too unexperienced. I'm guessing you could get away with giving her field commander in the event that you take Anakin with you on your trip, and Anakin is somehow kicked out of the game. Then maybe she gains
Yeah.
field command and takes control of the forces.
Sort of, but if you look at the end of Rebels, she was in charge of that clone force during the siege of Kashyyyk, during the siege of Mandalore. She was the leader,
Yes.
wasn't she? Even though they promoted Rex to Commander Rex,
Yeah, but I think that's more
that was
for the
story.
storyline than very reasonable military.
True. Here's one for you then, and I can't think of any battles. You know, as we know, this next set is themed around a specific battle.
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah, it's themed around the battle for Kashyyyk. I can't think of anything on screen that we've seen for the rebels and the Empire. Yeah, that unless they redo Hoth. And if they redo Hoth, does that then open up the floodgates to getting the ATST that everybody wants? Sorry, the AT-AT that everybody wants for the Battle of Hoth, and just make that as one release.
Hoth would be a very likely contestant because you could kill many birds with one stone. You could re-release many models with a
Yeah,
resculpted version. You could add miniatures and vehicles. That being said, I'm trying to wrap my head around.
there's
The
not a lot really because it was all guerrilla warfare, wasn't it? Really, unlike the Clone Wars, which was full on
a war.
battles,
Yeah.
a war. So
Um,
so for the Clone Wars, there's 2 that they could do, and it would just open up the game. One of them is you could do the Siege of Mandalore, which means you could have Mandalorians running on both factions, whether it be CIS or for the Republic.
yeah.
But
I'm
But of course,
thinking
it's not
about
CIS, of course.
I'm thinking about the original Battlefront games.
Hmm. Yeah.
Didn't they have original trilogy battles in them?
It was predominantly stuff. I mean, you could do the battle for Endor, which means we could then see Ewoks turn up.
Oh, I can hear a giggly scream from Warren on that side.
It opens up the possibility of bringing in the Ewoks onto the sides of the rebels, though, doesn't it? Where
Yeah,
I know there's a couple of people on Facebook since they've announced the Kashyyyk stuff's going. Where's our Gungans?
and again, the war on Endor could also mean re-releases of rebel troops
Uh-huh.
because different camo patterns, different loadouts of gear.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Redoing the guy with the beard who's now in canon as supposedly Captain Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know. But for the Clone Wars, this is
Oh,
one I thought would
I've got one for you.
what
For the Clone Wars, you could make the battle of what's her face, the homeworld of Princess Amidala,
yeah, you could do the battle for the battle for Naboo,
and
but he has one for
Naboo,
you,
and
which
then you can add Gungans.
yes, you could do Gungans, which leads into that's from the prequel anyway, isn't it? So that's from Episode 1
Yeah.
without the clone troopers. But he has one with clone troopers as well, which would be an interesting one, which opens up bringing in Force 99 if need be. Even though they wouldn't be around when this happened, is you could do the battle for Camino,
Mm-hmm.
which means you could then get a Sarge Ventress as a commander or an operative character.
Yeah, there are things to be considered. I think.
Because it's a Ventress would be a nice mini. I'd like to see them sculpt Ventress.
Oh, there are many figures I'd
Yeah.
like to see from
Hmm.
what they have done so far, but I can't think of a useful way to implement them
Yeah,
into
into
the
the room.
games.
Yeah. What was interesting and was what the creative director said. I can't remember his name. Was he was hoping that they may eventually they want that he's going to try and bug them to doing a clone commander Wolf, which would be an interesting. Just bringing in different. It depends on the points cost. You could probably point cost Wolf not as high as Rex. Sort of below in between doing that clone commander, which is at 55 points, the base one, the new one.
I think
That came
so.
with Separatists, and I think Rex is running at 90 or
Mm.
95. So you could easily pitch other clone commanders as alternative. When we're talking about alternative sculpts into that sort of point gap in between there. I mean, I know we covered the lat, and I know you're getting Hound and his pet doggy as a field commander card to put in the lat. As a character you don't see, but that would be a nice set to see on the tabletop of a clone with his pet lizard beast. I thought it was a Vonska, but it's not a Vonska.
I'm trying to think. Do you have in mind when the Clone Wars box was released? Was that 2019?
I think so. Let's have a look. On check. I thought it was the year before that. Actually, I thought it was. I thought it'd been out. Star Wars Legion. Starter set. Release.
Because what I'm currently thinking is
Released in the third quarter of 2019.
so it's going to be 2 years old
Yeah.
this year, and I think that's exactly the same time around
From the core.
when the original came around.
So
2 years prior.
there was a 2-year gap between the core and the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Between the Clone Wars, does that mean we're talking
I could see them do
Kylo Ren and
simply based on the fact that what we have already said multiple times, they are starting to run out of things to do.
yeah,
And with the with a potential release of New Order and the Resistance, you would have the ability to do more battle packs.
Yeah.
Though I don't think that would benefit the game.
It wouldn't, and could you see them selling? That's
Maybe if you never underestimate Star Wars fans.
no, I'm not going to underestimate Star Wars fans. And to be honest, and this is my opinion, that it's a vocal minority that dislikes episodes
and
7, 8, and 9.
you don't even need to like the movies. You
No.
simply have to see, okay, we have 2 additional factions with
Mhm.
potential more conflict and
Yeah.
a lot of more ways to innovate upon
Mhm.
units and bring more variation
Variation.
to the gaming table. This would work. Though that being said, I also would really like to see scum and villainy in that game.
Yes, I'd like to see. That's where I think you could do the Battle of Mandalore, because then, because it wasn't the CIS, it wasn't, it wasn't those, it was the crime syndicates. Technically, it was just Maul. I know that much, yeah. But you could easily do an additional, either additional cards or do a new sculpt of Maul with his bionic legs.
And the thing is, you don't need to make it a faction that is self-sustained. So you don't need it to be a faction that is run only with scum and villainy, but you could
Yeah,
say, okay, each unit from the faction of scum and villainy can be hired for its point cost by any other faction.
yeah. So it becomes a mercenary faction.
Yeah, so you could say, okay, I've got my rebel commander, I've got my contingent of rebel troopers, but I need some sort of specialist.
Hmm.
I'm taking, let's go for the obvious, Boba Fett. And I
Yeah,
want him to take down the enemy commander, and he gets some extra rules for that, or there are some victory points involved.
that then opens up the game to the idea of having a small little green character and his Mandalorian father turning up, along with, other people, like, an updated version of Fett, and, a Fennec Shan
Yeah,
with them,
or do a,
Bo
let's call
Katan.
it a special attack group with
Hmm.
or I don't know what race, Gungans, no,
Yeah.
not Gungans, Gamorrean guards,
Hmm. Yeah.
being very good at close combat, but costing not very much, and you're not really attached to them because they're just Gamorrean.
Mercenaries.
Yeah, if they got shot, well, bad happens.
Shit happens, doesn't it?
Green guy
But
always dies first.
yeah, it's like Star Trek and that thing. I mean, I must admit, the next thing I think I can possibly see them doing, it'll depend on how popular it is, but I think we may see a Bad Batch turn up, turn up.
And I don't think that's really just down to how popular it is. It's also, I think, how FFG and AMG have made their contract, how
Hmm.
what the
Yeah,
fine print reads with that
true.
with the rights management. I can see Disney saying, okay, there will be releases like these, and
Yeah.
you need to incorporate them into your game
E-
however you see fit, but we need them in to have
mhm,
some market distribution of
mhm.
sorts.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be down to popularity per se, but I can see them bringing the Bad Batch in.
Yeah,
They were when they were announced and when they were, shown off in those first 4 episodes of the last season of Clone Wars, they were very popular. I mean, I've got a Hunter and a Crosshair coming because I pre-ordered them. Black Series, the 6-inch.
yeah,
So I've got those 2 Black Series coming. Rekka is already being shown, which is the big, large, bulky one. He's coming out in August, and then there's just Tech at the end.
yeah. I think
Um,
the popularity of these comes down to the fact that they are a sort of comic relief without being stupid comedy.
yeah, the Rekka has some of the comic relief in him, but the other ones are more, shall we say, serious. But I think with them getting their own show as well, just shows, I think, how popular they thought they were going to be. I think, because I don't think that was by accident that that the Bad Batch was announced after we saw them.
And
I think that was on the cards.
coming back to something you said very early on about some special characters getting the pilot treatment, I
Yeah.
could see them doing a re-release or a release of pilot cards, because Luke could be a potential pilot, Vader could be a potential pilot,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing there are more.
Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan could be
Anakin.
a pilot. What's his face?
No.
The last release next to Lando,
Callus.
Callas is a pilot. So you could make a pilot release, to say it, and maybe add some unnamed special trained pilots for certain vehicles, just to spice up the game a bit, because that wouldn't be too costly to produce, because you only produce cards, because
Yeah, you're just
miniatures
producing
in the
cars
vehicles
on.
aren't seen.
Yeah.
Most of the times, at least. So, well, there's no harm in that, doing some paperboard card updates.
No, there's not. And I mean, the only other thing as well, I think they may start moving into more, because AMG have shown off that they're starting to do more of that with the Marvel Crisis Protocol. Is they're doing, I know in Crisis Protocol we're getting some more buildings, getting some more terrain pieces. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more, maybe, as a release, instead of doing physical miniatures, they do more terrain pieces.
If they would do terrain piece without making it a gaming objective again, maybe. But I fear those would be way too expensive, as the current line of terrain already is. The downed ATST, the bunker, and the crashed escape pod is just not very viable.
What is a little annoying, and I wish they would do this without the crashed escape pod, is if you want to run R2D2 or CP3O, you've got to get that crashed escape pod.
Yeah, or that could be a re-release as well. Make some characters available in a different set, maybe.
Yeah, because that's the only way to run an R2 or 3PO, is to get that crashed escape pod. And if you don't want the crashed escape pod, but you want those two characters, it's either hunting them up on Fleabay if you can find somebody that split them and doesn't want the R2, but most people want the R2 and the 3PO. Especially R2, because R2, it's a free victory point just about.
Did you see what AMG did to the X-Wing app?
No.
The original web version you could use in your browser was, let's say, it looked dated the time it released, and they redid it completely, and it really looks usable. It looks so good that I was actually tempted, only for a split second though, but I was tempted to start again. But since there's nobody to play, solid.
Yeah. I must admit, I have been a little tempted to jump in on Armada for the Clone Wars sets.
Yeah, but did you take a look at the prices?
Yes, and then I stepped away from it.
Is really only for the wealthy. That game is expensive.
It
even
is
expensive. By FFG and Star Wars standards.
Yeah. But I could see, and I know they were talking about this, and I don't know whether, I think it was just part of that weekend, and maybe it's a way of running not so much running tournaments, but running, campaign games. And this might be something, to look at and address at some point, is, you basically, you pick your force. So say it's, Rebels, Empire, or, clones, CIS. And you could have a collection of, different planets. So say a small, say 5 or 6 planet system. And what you do first is you run an Armada battle. And the outcomes of the Armada battle sort of governs what is going to happen when you start landing your troops. So say, for example, the clones win that Armada, manage to blockade the planet. the droids are then at a disadvantage in some way, whether that be with lack of reinforcements and stuff like that, or if the clones have successfully taken, the skies, they're able to call in reinforcements and stuff like that. So just a way of, of coming in with almost like having a campaign rule set,
So,
but
so
based
basically, you're
around,
talking Star Wars Empire at War.
yeah, pretty much. But running it with tabletop instead of running it through a PC.
Yeah, I'd like that amalgamation of game systems if you could really pull it off. And
Yeah.
even if you just go, okay, we play a game of X-Wing, and whoever wins gets to choose, well, objective, or has the defending side, and the other one has to be the attacker or something.
I mean,
Those
with
lines.
X-Wing, you could do it with, instead of, say, based on ground battles, you could do it where it's an ongoing campaign where your pilots, so instead of having named pilots as your core characters, yeah, you have generic pilots, and you're basically building your squadron up to make their names. So, say, for example, it's almost like having a little mini creation process for creating, the skills for the pilot. Things like that. And as they progress through battle, through fight after fight after fight, or skirmish after skirmish as a pilot, they gain experience to be able to increase their skills. The same way that SPQR and stuff worked, for their commanders. And having that sort of functionality built into, almost a campaign style game with X-Wing, you could do it with X-Wing, you could do it with clones. You could probably do it with the Legion at a skirmish level.
Yeah, that would be an
Because they're
interesting
small.
play.
Because they're small units. So instead of running a Rex or a Luke or a Vader, or or Maul, like in the way you get the points to run Maul and Vader and all of that in the skirmish level. But you have generic commanders and, say, generic troopers. And the troopers could then be upgraded, as they go through battle and stuff like that. Instead of being upgraded via stats, they're upgraded via type. So instead of being generic troopers, they say become a special force troop.
Well, they could you could
Arcs,
also
as an
do
example.
that on regular battles,
Yeah.
because as long as you restrict it to unnamed troop units which gain experience, and maybe this unit has fought valiantly and gets a +1 defense because it knows how to duck and cover.
Yeah, or gains an ability, as an example, because I know Phase 1 clones only have one ability, but Phase 2 has sort of two abilities on the piece of paper, on the
On the
unit
slot.
card,
Yeah.
on the unit card. So something like some of that. I mean, it's just a way, I think, of coming up with something interesting that's different than the standard gameplay that we seem to be,
Yeah, and I think
coming up
AMG
with.
tried to do that with this weird battling system they
Yeah.
did on their weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I really couldn't get a hang of it,
No, I
what
couldn't.
they were doing, and mainly it was a bit of a weird thing to make this simultaneously work with their live streaming stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they were trying to get people to run battles while they were live streaming, so they could so the outcomes could be, or the bonuses could then be adjusted. But it's just something different to think about, I think, from from point of view of gameplay, and especially with model choices coming in now more and more.
Yeah.
With the two vehicles and then all the other things that seem to be popping up. It's just, it's an interesting time, I think, more than
Yeah.
anything.
To sort of close this up, I think AMG is at a point in the lifespan of Star Wars Legion where they can either really fuck it up or give this thing a boost that will take it to the next level. I don't see Legion go on the way it has been the last 4 or 5 years, because then it will just simply
Yeah.
vanish into non-existence at some foreseeable point. So either AMG really drops the ball and everything goes to shit, or they manage to make some changes, additions, whatever you want to call it, to make the thing really go off and may have a longer shelf life than other products in that gaming category.
Yeah, we said this when they popped up as taking over, when FFG said, we're basically handing it off to our wargaming arm, because really that's what it is, isn't it? You know, it's that you know, they're in a good position, I think, because they proved with my Crisis Protocol that they can take a license and run with it and have success with it.
And the fact that they've managed to get most of the original team on board,
Yeah,
and the effort they are putting into it to keep people interested. I mean, just thinking of making 2 streams a week for
Mhm.
one gaming system is something I only have seen so far from the likes of Games Workshop.
D&D as well.
Yeah, but D&D is different.
Yeah, it is different. Yeah, it
D&D
is
A,
actually.
it's a role-playing game primarily, and B, there are so many people streaming D&D games.
Yeah, I was thinking of the official D&D one. You know, that official D&D Twitch channel is constantly full with, you know, with their people, the people that are affiliated with them just streaming their games.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a beast. I think, to be honest, it's bigger than GW with the amount of streaming and stuff that seems to be going off on that. But Games Workshop's the same, as you said. You know, they stream 5 days a week plus their YouTube channel.
D&D is a game that lends itself more likely to be streamed, because you can make it work with live streaming. Gaming on the tabletop, not so much.
No.
So before we go on any further and ramble, we are into our close to 100 minutes, which is almost a small about long hours, tightly scripted.
Well, we said we were going to have a long talk, didn't we? Because we haven't been around for a while.
Yeah. So
we are coming back though, folks. We will be back.
The next stop will be, I think, March the 4th. If there isn't, no, May the 4th.
May the 4th. Get it?
Yeah, the time of day is getting to me.
Yeah, it's not. It's late for you.
I don't know if in the next 4 weeks there will be anything from AMG or anyone else. If there will be, we will make a short notice of something.
We will pop our faces or our voices onto the YouTube and stuff to wax lyrical about our love of Star Wars.
But as the foreseeable future goes, we will sit and watch The Bad Batch when it releases, and the weekend after we will record this session, and then you can all bugger off.
And I think we're getting 2 episodes that first week as well.
So that could be a potential long...
Because it's May the 4th is a Tuesday, so they're definitely, because it's premiering on May the 4th. And then I think then I think the next episode's going to be on the Friday. And then every week after that's going to be the Friday. I think that was the plan that they sort of alluded to.
Yeah, we will see how it turns out, and how much time and effort we will invest into this episode if the series doesn't turn out to be totally crap, which I don't think.
No.
So with that, I thank you, Ralph, for being here. I thank you out there for listening to us. We will be back in 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it takes. Stay safe. Remain indoors.